We're back in Cleveland, site of the Republican National Convention, which is just wrapping up out on the floor. We're joined by Florida Congressman Ted Yoho. Thank you for being with us.
Gary, I appreciate you having me on.
You've also had a long week, but I appreciate your extending it a little bit longer to talk with us. You're a Republican House member, obviously. You just heard Donald Trump give a long and detailed speech. There are some respects of the policies that he laid out, the approach that he sketched out. They're different from what House Republicans have put forth, particularly on trade and immigration. Talk a little bit about how those messages can mesh in the fall.
Well, I think if we start with trade, what he says about trade, and I agree with him 100%. You know, I sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I've seen the missteps of NAFTA. I've seen some of the other trade negotiations that we've had, and I stand with him against TPP. You know, I'm all for trade. We need to have fair and balanced trade, and I think with his vision and what he's talking about, I think he is definitely on the right track to put America back on track. And if you listen to the polls, you know, 77% of the American people said we're on the wrong track. And so I thought he was really good on that. On immigration, I stand 100% with him because, number one, I don't think we need any more immigration laws on the book. We've got plenty of laws. If we were to enforce our laws on immigration, and if we were to do the border security that we're already tasked to do, we wouldn't have near the problems where you're seeing over 1,000 U.S. citizens killed at the hands of felonies that are illegal immigrants that should have been deported.
Yeah, but there are also statistics out there that show that net, the flow of Mexicans is greater now going back to Mexico than coming from Mexico. So that would suggest maybe we're already winning that battle.
Well, we're winning that partially, and that's a good number, and we want to keep it going in that way. But there's also, you know, when they look at the deportation numbers or people leaving, they're counting people that are turned away at the border as deportation. So that figures into that. But those net the net people going back to Mexico, those last numbers I have were from 2014, before 2015. And so, yeah, you know, they were better at that time, but we know they've increased since that time too.
Let me step back and think about this speech in a broader context. It was painted a pretty grim picture of America in a lot of ways. Crime is bad, trade agreements are killing the economy, taxes are too high, Americans are scared. Normally, in a political speech at a convention like this, you want to provide a little uplift. Yeah. There wasn't much of that, but is that a mistake, or does that fit the times?
Well, I want to go back to what I said earlier about the 77% of the American people feel our country is in the wrong direction. Yeah. So I think he's on track there. The economy, we talk about it doing better, but when you get into the grassroots and you talk to the people on the ground, what I find, if you talk to the people in the building sector, say in Jacksonville, and I've sat down with them, I said, how's building doing? They said, oh man, it's fantastic, it's great. I said, how is it compared to the recession? And one of the contractors we were sitting with said, let me put this in perspective. Before the recession, we were doing 10,000 new home starts. We're doing 2,500 now. So it's a quarter of what it used to be. And for those people that survived the recession and the downturn, they're doing better. And it's sputtering along, but the confidence around that is not there.
And sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and that's because of I feel the direction of this administration, President Obama, and people want somebody that gets out there and negotiates well. I sit on Foreign Affairs, and when I talk to the diplomats and the ambassadors that come in, they're like, what are you guys doing? Where do you stand? We don't know if we can trust you anymore or depend on you. And that's not just here in America, that's around the world.
But some people are going to say that the "we can't trust you" aspect was actually made a little worse by Donald Trump in the last 24 hours by talking about not necessarily defending NATO allies if they're hit by Russia. How worrisome is that to you? He tried to address it in the speech tonight. Did he address it well?
You know what? What he addressed tonight was perfect because we sat with the diplomatic corps, a bunch of ambassadors that are here at this convention, and every one of them that we sat with said, we're coming to the table, we're making sure that we meet our commitment on NATO. And this is a change from 3 years ago. So I don't know if his influence has had that. And I think that little bit of uncertainty that he creates makes people come to the line and make that commitment. But when you look at the economy overall or our national security, if you don't have a clear, concise policy, which we haven't in the last 7 years, it creates confusion. And when there's confusion, there's lack of activity, and people kind of drift away. There's the uncertainty that he's created has gotten people to pay attention, and I see them And again, this comes from what I've seen up here. People have come to us say, hey, we're putting in our NATO money. We're going to make sure we come to the table on it.
He's treating it like a negotiation, a deal.
He is. Yeah, the art of the deal.
You and I were talking during the break before we came on here a little bit about the importance of Florida in this election.
Oh, yeah.
It's an electoral college map that works a lot better for Donald Trump to get to victory if he wins Florida, and a lot harder if he doesn't. Put on your political analyst hat for a minute and tell me what Florida looks like right now.
You know, Florida, north of I-4, is 100% Donald Trump. I represent 13 counties in North Florida. The day he announced, we saw nothing but Donald Trump signs all the way through the primary. We saw hand-painted signs in the beginning, Trump for president, Trump's going to make America great, and then it got the signs being out. I saw one cruise sign in my district in North Central Florida, and it was just mind-boggling that a complete outsider, and I'm a complete outsider too, so I can really relate to what he does. But, you know, with his business experience and the property he owns and his influence in South Florida, I think when it comes down to the economy, when it comes down to the national security, when it comes down to us standing with Israel, you're going to see South Florida go for Donald Trump, is my prediction.
Except that, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is Democrats are registering a lot of Hispanic new voters in Florida, and that makes a difference.
Well, what I see with Mr. Trump is he has reached out, and I think he's making a universal message. He doesn't want the Hispanic vote. He wants the American vote of people of all backgrounds, whether it's Hispanic, Jewish, Muslim. He wants those people that are American, that believe in America, that will vote for him. And I think that's where you're going to see these people come in.
Yeah. Ted, Yoho, I hope we get to talk with each other as this goes along. I think your state's important. Love to see you down there as it goes along. And thanks for hanging in there with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Good to see you. Thanks very much.
Sir.